Why do you think that developers went so strong in the luxury market?
That's a good question.
It really doesn't, it almost doesn't make sense.
No, and I wonder how they announce projects now, downtown, starting at almost $1 million when there's 100 months of inventory at $1 million. 100, that's like no market.
100 months.
Yes, truly.
All right, so right now, so you're my numbers expert, and you're telling me that there's 100 months of inventory on the market right now. Welcome everybody back to the David Adam Kurz Take Action podcast. Today I'm joined with our Vice President of Commercial, Deni Alvarez. How you doing, sir?
Good afternoon. How are you?
All right. And then we have the superstar all around numbers expert when it comes to market value and taking things to a whole nother level, Anna Bozovic.
Very well
Did I say it right?
That was excellent.
Yes! I practiced that one time, ladies and gentlemen, one time. So thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you very much for having me.
On this show, we talk about a lot of different stuff. So this show varies. We'll talk about taking action in your business and things like that, taking action in your life, bettering your business by knowing specific things. One of the things that we often talk about is bettering your business by knowing your numbers. Mm-hmm. And I think that knowing your numbers can really be on multiple levels, right? So for instance, Deni put out a video the other day. What was it, yesterday?
Yesterday.
I think yesterday it went out, right? Yes. So if you guys want to catch that very short, literally 6-second video, go to the hold on, I'm getting a call. Go to at Kurz Real Estate on Instagram or at Kurz Real Estate on any social media platform for that matter, on Facebook or wherever. You'll find the video on there, and the video was very simple. It was a commercial market update for Q1. And it basically talked about what was it Q1 or Q2?
It was Q2, and it talked about the average price in the central market on multifamily. So it spoke about the price per unit and what the current rents are, again, in the central Miami area for the last quarter of 2000.
Right. So commercial real estate, very unlike residential real estate, has zero emotion. It's all numbers. Right?
As much as anything has no emotion.
Exactly.
Exactly.
It's like you buy a house, like when you're buying your first home with your kids and this and that and that and this, and or your family's growing and you're buying the second home or whatever that is, there's an emotional aspect that's tied into that. When it comes to commercial real estate, it's very do the numbers make sense?
Yep.
Right? All right, so you're asking $9 million for this shopping plaza. Do the rent roll for that shopping plaza, the length of leases and everything else, support the asking price.
That's right.
Supported and does the cap rate exactly
rather than do I like the light in this room? Does it make me happy?
Exactly. Does this kitchen have the right feng shui? Right? It doesn't work that way on the commercial aspect.
Yes, in commercial it's you're buying an investment, right? Whether it's for yourself, your family, or as a group, an investment group. You think about it as a stock. So you want to know everything back and forth, not only the area, the neighborhood, but more importantly, what returns is this commercial property going to give you? And that's the way we approach it things. So yes, we take the emotion out of it, but once in a while we do take a laugh or two for whatever reasons. But we are serious as far as what we do, and the numbers speak for themselves, and that's why the commercial is what it is. And unlike residential, we look at the aspects, the numbers, but also what's behind the numbers. And I think that's why having a guest like Anna here will help us do certain determinations and where the market is, where it was, but more importantly, where it's headed.
So I'm super excited about that because that's exactly what we want to talk about today. And so I've been in the market long enough to where I lived the height, the bubble bust, the crash, the short sale and REO market, and then the rise back up. And I feel like we're back up again, and we're. I mean, would I venture to say that we're at price points close to where we were at the height of the bubble?
The previous bubble.
Yes. So
citywide, no.
No.
Yeah, citywide, both for single family and for condos, median and average prices are not past old highs. Because this last bubble, we'll call it that, was the luxury bubble.
Yeah.
And that's the portion that went up the most. But median and average Miami-Dade wide prices are not past old highs, even without taking inflation into account.
All right, so let's talk about bubbles.
But it's a bifurcated market this time. This is what's happened.
Yeah.
Is that last time it was a debt driven bubble across basically all price points.
So you're saying there was another bubble after that bubble?
The one we're in now.
Yes. All right. So when I say the bubble, right,
Mm-hmm.
I am like the pain in my heart still is there from, condos flipping the next day for 50 grand more, and then all of a sudden everything was a quarter the price it was.
Yep.
And that's known as the debt bubble,
That
right?
was the very precipitous.
And that was national.
Yes.
National.
Yes,
The
it
entire
was.
country suffered that.
That's right.
But now this luxury bubble that we're in right now, is this hyper local or is it?
So actually, it's yes and no. So it was a trend nationwide in the last development cycle that luxury was overbuilt basically in every city across America. Cities haven't built at what I'll call like price attainable local support levels for working people. They built luxury nationwide. Miami is probably one of the worst offenders, however. So
I could see that.
We have record levels of luxury inventory. So
Why do you think? And this obviously is going to be a hypothesis, but why do you think that developers went so strong in the luxury market?
that's a good question.
It really doesn't, it almost doesn't make sense to me.
No, and I wonder how they announce projects now, downtown, starting at almost $1 million when there's 100 months of inventory at $1 million. 100, that's like no market.
100 months.
Yes, truly.
All right, so right now, so you're my numbers expert, and you're telling me that there's 100 months
Yes.
of inventory on the market right now.
Downtown.
In downtown.
It's depends on the area. None of them are doing great. But for instance, like everyone says, like Miami Beach, there's actually very little development at Miami Beach. We'll talk about overdevelopment on the beach, but there's almost none. There's no residential going on.
And there's not a lot of
small
space,
stuff.
believe it or not.
No, exactly. So it's like infill things, townhomes, like
Yeah.
the Sophie House project coming up, Lure House, things like this. But the big towers were built before. They haven't contributed to this cycle. And you have established neighborhoods like South the Fifth neighborhood, and they have like 50 months of inventory. A healthy market's 8 to 10.
Yeah.
It's not
Sure,
a pretty picture.
and it's funny that you mentioned that because we're talking 50 months of inventory in a place that the towers have been up for many years.
Yeah.
Many years.
Last
we're
cycle.
talking,
I mean, more than 10 years.
Yeah,
almost.
more than 10 years.
That's correct. Yeah.
So we're talking over a decade old buildings, 50 months of inventory.
right.
That's out of control.
I know.
And then
It's-
now when you say downtown, do you include Brickell?
I separated them out, but they're pretty similar. I think downtown was a little bit worse. But they're both bad.
Wow.
They're both worse than South Beach. Yeah. Actually, where you guys are located, Coconut Grove is one of the best. It's a small market, yeah. So
Yeah.
we just look at there. Not many condo transaction here, but it's actually doing the best. It's
Out of
under,
everyone.
Yeah, it's under 20 months from 500 to $1 million.
And
It's really good.
I
for
really
here.
think that's because kind of Coconut Grove's like a niche place.
Yeah,
where
well, and it's
if
also,
you
I
want to
think it's
live in the
heavy
Grove,
end
it's
user.
because you live in the Grove.
So I think it's end user,
It
which is the difference.
That's the point.
And this cycle is like what I said was so this cycle we've had decreasing condo volume since 2013. That was the peak of transaction volume.
Okay.
And it's been decreasing since then. The first quarter of this year and Q4 of last year we're below 2010 for transaction volume. It's been a steady downturn. So prices haven't fallen as much as volume has. That may be because last time it was very fast. It was pressure with the debt holders. Now there's no debt. It was cash buyers, so it's pressure on the equity holders. But that's kind of the dynamic that we're in. And it was on the beach, Miami Beach, 92% of the transaction volume lost from top to where we are now is cash buyers going away. The percentage of people financing has stayed pretty steady.
So let's talk about that real quick. And this is a twofold situation. And the way I look at it is if the United States, if Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac don't figure out a way to offer more lending opportunities for condos, the condo market is going to remain in a really tough place.
I agree.
And because to ask somebody to live in Brickell, okay, and we're not only do we want you, the millennial, to live in Brickell after you graduate and create a career for yourself, and let's say you're in the financial market or you become an attorney or whatever you are, entrepreneur, whatever it is, and you live in Brickell, if you want to buy one of those, you're looking at $500,000, $600,000, $700,000. And if you're looking at $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 in a condo, you're immediately looking at 20-25% down.
That's right.
Right?
That's a chunk of change.
That's a chunk of change.
Yeah.
Most people don't have that.
No, correct.
And if Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac don't really get on the ball and offer opportunity, then commercial market's going to suffer, right? Because they're not going to be able to build and sell.
That's right.
And they're gonna have to hold for long periods of time unless they're building to rent, which is something that's coming to Miami.
And more people are renting nationwide. And Miami has one of the highest percentages of renters versus owners in the country.
And Miami also has probably one of the highest prices for rent
Yes.
in the country.
People, well, we have one of the highest, it's the percentage of people who are like cost-aggrieved renters who spend, I think it is, more than 40% of gross income on rent. We have one of the highest percentages, and it's not good.
It's not good.
And it's like a thing because people keep moving here. The region keeps growing. We keep adding jobs. Like all these things are great, but then it's like the housing was built for this outside money market.
Yeah.
And that's volatile, number one.
And you know what? And there's another side to that too, because it's not only that. Like I understand what you're saying. The housing was it was built for someone else.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't built for our end users. It wasn't built for our in-home transition from Kendall to Coconut Grove or Coconut Grove to Coral Gables. But look at me right now. I did a search the other day on the MLS, right? From here, from this focal point, from this office. And I said, I'm looking for a 4-bedroom with a pool and a garage.
Mm-hmm.
That was my only criteria, single family home, and $5,000 is the max I'm willing to pay, right? So I did 4,500 to 5,200 just to give myself a spread, right? There was nothing
No, I
around
know.
here.
I was gonna say.
There's nothing around
I
here.
haven't done the search, but I would have guessed. Yeah.
There was nothing around here. The
That's
closest home was by Dateland.
Yeah, which is not that close.
It's not close,
No.
you know. And
Yeah.
and look, if it's 2:00 in the morning, it's 10 minutes away,
Yeah,
right? But when most people are awake with all that traffic on US 1 and very little side street
That's right.
opportunity, because there are very few side streets you can take
yeah.
to do that transit route, you're screwed. You're an hour and a half to 2 hours away from
That's exactly it.
from location.
That's exactly it.
And then you're paying top dollar for a location that doesn't deserve it, in my opinion.
Yeah, which
Right?
is why we're seeing rents push up all over the place. Like Little Havana, for instance, had a huge rent spike last year. Also,
It's ridiculous.
all this stuff because they have like nothing's been built, and it's a real problem. And Miami Beach is one of the worst offenders for this. All new construction is very expensive, and no new inventory has been added. And people working in hospitality and so forth have to commute an hour.
Yeah.
They have no place.
Yeah, because that's the majority of the work in Miami Beach.
That's
It's
correct.
hospitality.
That's correct. And Miami Beach has even lost multifamily inventory over 15% since 2010.
Why?
Hotel conversion, condo conversion.
Why?
Because it's, well, okay.
I think we had a conversation on that. You're more profitable if you switch it either to condo or hotel conversion.
If you're in a hotel overlay district or
And
something
now
like
with
that,
new
yeah.
systems or platforms like Airbnb, for these investors that purchase these multifamilies of I think 20 units minimum or even up to 15 units, it's more profitable for them to have that the
short-term rental.
Short-term
model.
Short-term rental.
If you're in the
Yes.
zone that allows it. But the thing is...
Yeah, because Miami Beach doesn't allow it.
Some do. Like
Some parts.
they changed in 2016 a strip of Harding allows it. They're like these... Miami Beach zoning is very complicated. There are all these overlay
Yeah.
districts. But it's also this huge portion of the city is locked in historic, which makes it very expensive to operate. Their insurance keeps going up because they're older buildings below flood lines. You can't like renovate them. Like God help if you want to do anything.
Do anything
And
to
so
them,
it's
yeah.
all like locked. And if you look at the maps, you have all these districts, and the new stuff is these towers on the outside, which are expensive.
Yeah.
And then it's actually losing population too.
It blows my mind.
It's so strange.
And then so we have the luxury bubble that we're
Yeah.
in right now. We're losing cash buyers left and right. And we're losing cash buyers due to, I think one of our biggest things, being in Miami is we had a lot of buyers from South America.
Yes.
Venezuelan money's tied up, Colombian money's tied up, Bolivian money's tied up, Argentine money's tied up. So now this money can't make it to the United States the way it used to,
That's correct.
the way it influxed. So places like Doral, who built multi-million dollar homes right next to the trash mountain, which
true.
yeah,
I know.
like here's this great home and it has a rooftop deck.
yes.
Great. So now I get a better view of the trash mountain.
So-
And by the way,
When the winds
your
change,
neighbor
it's even
is so close that you can literally pass the sugar from your window to their window.
Well, that's convenient with your morning coffee.
Yeah, right? So you have 0 lot line, house, rooftop deck for an extreme awesome view of the trash, Mount Trashmore or whatever it is.
And every 2 minutes you get to see an airplane. So,
Yeah, every 2 minutes an airplane passes by you, which is cool too. And then minimum $1 million.
Exactly, because it's all getting pushed. It's
Yeah.
I know.
Minimum $1 million. I would never live there for that amount of money.
No,
right?
it's-
And then, but the people who would,
Yeah.
because of their culture, let's call it culture, because Doral's very culturally driven. So it's like little Venezuela,
They have
right?
extended families there. I get it.
Yeah. So you have extended families, and they want to be there in their own culture. I get that, but now they're not bringing the money anymore.
Yeah.
Whatever money was coming out of Venezuela is already here.
Correct.
It's
can't go on
already
forever.
spent.
It's been
Yeah.
taken out. Now I know.
So now
Yeah.
we have the lack of cash buyers. We overbuilt on luxury. What's the good news?
Well, the good news, I think that the general trends are positive. People keep coming. Miami-Dade is up 60% in population since 1980. That's a good thing. The city of Miami is up 30%. Unemployment keeps dropping. We're adding financial service jobs now, too, which maybe the new tax thing will help to accelerate.
Wall Street South.
Yeah, all those things are great.
Yeah.
All these general trends are awesome. And I think that, yeah, generally very positive on the whole area. It's just that when I say, like, this bubble, I mean that luxury bubble.
That luxury bubble,
It's bizarre.
What do you think the next bubble is?
What do you mean?
Like, what's going to happen next?
What's going to happen?
Yeah.
You know,
Where are we headed?
Where are we headed? I mean, it's a slow trend. So, like, transaction volume keeps dropping. The last 2 quarters, it's like dropped at a lower rate, but it's not. It's still dropping. I mean, this is all just over time. It's going down. Inventory, we're still at record highs for number of listings, aggregate value of listings. So that it's still getting bad. Like it hasn't even begun to clear, in my opinion.
So, do prices need to come down?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's the only way to clear inventory.
It fell 40% last time. But last time was fast. It was pressure on debt. Maybe it'll be a slow, drawn out thing. Like I don't know, but it hasn't even started.
Knock on wood.
Yet.
I hope it is a slow, drawn out thing that just kind of evens and plateaus everything out. Right?
I don't know, because when there are no transactions, nothing happens, and it takes longer to clear.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And now we have like the fix-its or the band-aids, which are the micro units coming into downtown.
Yep.
More affordable units, right?
Yep.
We've got rental buildings coming up.
Which is great. I think it's awesome.
I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
We were talking about that
Yeah.
before we started the show because the rental unit was never, or rental building was never a thing in Miami.
York. It was never the thing here, and I think it's awesome.
It was never a thing here.
Yeah.
You know, and now they're coming up more and more and more, especially downtown. Along the river, you're starting to see them.
Yep.
You know, and in my opinion, that's going to be huge.
I think so. I think it's great. And it's aligned with trends. More and more people are renting, and they're renting for longer. They're really cool products they're building with great amenities, modern, like WeWork type, living, working stuff.
Huge.
It's really
Pools,
great. Like, fun places to live.
Yeah, pools, pool tables, game rooms, study rooms, libraries.
Yeah, you get to know your neighbors, common
kitchens, all this craziness.
Well, it's the thing that, we go back 10 years ago, even 15 years ago, you try to go out west as much as you can, parts of Kendall, further south as well, sometimes even Homestead. That was the thing. You bought your first house out there. Turns out cost base is what we're talking about. If you want to be closer to where the action is, being the financial downtown, Brickell areas, even Coral Gables, all these professionals, rather, instead of having to drive 2-3 hours because of logistics, they rather instead move, live in a townhouse or even the apartment.
Mm-hmm.
Pay more, live smaller.
Correct.
Right. To have closer access.
Right, and the neighborhood. As the neighborhoods get better, that becomes a thing also. All this new stuff is coming to all these neighborhoods that didn't even exist 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden you have cool things all around you. It's like the New York model. You have a small apartment, but you have all this stuff.
But you have all this stuff around you, and you can walk. Walkability is amazing.
Yeah.
We were talking about that earlier today, and we were saying how now we have the scooters, right?
Yeah.
Everywhere. Like there's scooters everywhere. The bird scooters.
Right. Yeah,
right. And so they're all over. I did a search on the map with the app. And they're literally all over Coconut Grove, all over Brickell and downtown, and then there's this line of them all the way down 8th Street, which I didn't call that one. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was a shock.
That was a shock.
Yeah.
So you've got this line of them all the way down 8th Street. So now more buildings are coming up with no parking.
Yep.
Smaller units, common spaces.
Yep.
And now you could just scooter to work.
Or take Uber.
Or take Uber.
These options that are.
But the scooter's so much simpler, and you'll get there quicker.
That's true.
Because in the Uber, you're gonna be stuck in the same traffic as those that have a car.
That's true.
Right? So you jump in the scooter.
Yeah.
Or use a city bike.
More and more options. I don't drive, actually. I can't drive. I grew up in New York, so I take Uber everywhere.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I drive.
So you never thought of getting a driver?
That's awesome.
So
Holy shit.
I was at the cutting edge of the technology. No, I just can't drive. That's the
Oh my God, that's crazy.
Yeah,
I take Uber everywhere. So,
so going with that, right? How do you see as far as in the commercial realm with multifamily?
Yep.
So that was actually my next question. Like, I'm an investor.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
I've got some money.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, the play here is not to buy a condo and rent it out. Right?
No,
and
that's very expensive, difficult.
Yeah, and the play here is not even to flip properties because the flips in Miami-Dade County, I think I read yesterday, are down 42% from where they were last year.
Yeah.
So there's not much to flip.
No, I wouldn't even. I have no idea. What you could
I mean, you almost have to get lucky.
Exactly.
And
Which could happen, but you can't bank on that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We've gotten lucky a couple times, but it can't be your main source, right? Not as an investor. So now I start peeking at the commercial realm, So where's my money worth?
Oh, I mean, there's some great opportunities in multifamily, and I think that it has good long-term alignment with the downturn. So if we're basically all right. So real estate is local, but we still exist in the broader credit cycle, and we're late in the game. The stock market, by any metric you like to use, is historically hugely overvalued, which means that, statistically speaking, going out 5 years is going to be negative returns, very likely. We have interest rates going up. The yield curve is flattening. Nationwide unemployment is at lows, which is actually an indicator of a recession coming. Unemployment is always lowest before a recession.
Yes.
So all these things, we're clearly late in the cycle. We don't know when, but we're late in the cycle. So there will very likely be a downturn happening at some point in the not so far future. And in that type of scenario, product that caters to lower price points is more resilient because it's not a discretionary purchase. You could choose to buy the expensive thing or not, stay where you are, et cetera, et cetera. But apartments in this case that cater to not the lowest, but lower price points, people either get pushed into them in a downturn or stay because they can't move to the nicer one.
Yeah.
So they're resilient towards the end of the economic cycle.
So I'm an investor. I call Deni and I say, hey, Deni, I want a multifamily, low income, low price. That's where the money's at for the next 5 to 10 years.
You'll do well longer term than that. A lot of people have built their real estate portfolios, their fortunes on boring multifamily products. They're like a staple. People.
Let me tell you something. In my opinion, there was this whole debate about Section 8, where it's illegal to say I won't accept Section 8 because it's just housing discrimination. And so I was like, why is this an uproar? Section 8 direct deposits in your bank account.
It's from the government. It's fantastic.
It's government.
Yeah.
Like, why is there an uproar about this? And I thought to myself,
it's some stigma, probably.
That's what it is. And if I'm building a multi-unit portfolio or rental portfolio, or I'm putting something together, I'm not buying the $7 million house to rent out for $20,000 a month.
It's not supported by cash flow.
No, it's not. And I'm also not buying the $1 million house to rent for $5,000 a month.
No.
Again, the math there is not right.
No.
It doesn't make sense.
There's no math. Yeah, correct. Yeah.
And so what should I be looking at? Multifamilies, right? Should we be looking at a multifamily for $300,000-$400,000 in areas like Opelika and places
or
like
more expensive ones, just with more units.
With more units,
it's the same thing.
Depends. Is it a 4-plex, 6-plex, 8-plex?
And 10, 12 units, as long as it's that same market.
This also opens up as a community, right? So we have this for the last couple of years, communities like in Elizabeth City, Brownsville, Alapata, that have taken, for many years, that were known as places you don't want to live. And it was because of maybe the ambiance or people were not taking care of the
crime rate, things of that nature.
As we see how, as Anna was mentioning, now that people who are professionals that are kind of stuck within their means, that they cannot afford the luxury condo of $500,000 plus, but they could also rent somewhere between those areas and be close to downtown Miami Beach. It's bringing up these neighborhoods that are now they're taking pride now. I've been to some of the commissioners meetings where now you having commissioners trying to get these communities more involved, try to get them more hyped. And for example, the old Wynwood, right? Now, with what's taken there with the art scene, it's taken off even up north, Buena Vista. That's a new area not many people knew about, but now that you have all these new investors going in there and making all these multifamilies and even the single-family homes, making them better, it's bringing up more of a better view. Should I move east rather than go out west and having to drive 3?
Right. So my question to you is, as those things begin to happen, just like everything else, prices will begin to go up because now it's a more sought after neighborhood. It's cleaner, it's nicer. People are painting their houses, they're taking pride in the neighborhood, they're doing landscaping, they're not parking on the grass, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now the area becomes more expensive. So now the prices start to rise. Maybe they're not as expensive as Miami Beach, but they're starting to rise. What happens to the people that are there now?
Well, the current infrastructure would get them to do two things, right? Either they keep moving up north, how we've had some people leave the county, not South Florida, but moving into South Broward areas, Hallandale Beach, parts of Hollywood, where yet the price point per rent is about $200 to $300 cheaper. And then the new areas, it'll increase in rent. It becomes a little bit more expensive, but it'll top off because no new projects are taking place there. And again, the city and the county are making sure that you do a lot of workforce housing. So any new development has to meet a certain criteria. Right. In other words, people have to make between $25,000 but no more than, I think, $60,000 a year. If not, they will not give you the permits or the necessary amount of units that you would like. A new thing also that's coming up because of the new zoning is that some of these new buildings, you could have your rents up to market, but the first 2 or 3 floors have to be a certain cap. So where you see retail space, first, second floor, third, fourth, and fifth floor are, again, workforce housing where they're capped at a certain income. And then the remaining, 10 units up or floors up, you could have what market rates determines. And that's the way the county wants it. Also, City of Miami, and as far as I know, also City of North Miami, Little Haiti areas are trying to do that way, so that there's a mix, but there's for everyone. How are developers doing that? Well, the first couple floors are smaller units, so that the workforce housing that are capped at a certain rate, they get to live in this nice building, this new project, but yet their units are much smaller. The ones who want to pay market rent, they get these 3-2s, very nice, a little bit more on the high end, but it caters to all.
They can stay in the neighborhood.
Yeah, they can stay in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Which I find it's interesting that they're actually working on that. I always thought that as I saw Miami grow over the last decade, I just thought the intention was to push out. That's the way it looked. The intention was to push out. Coming from New York, you see exactly what happened in Manhattan, right? Everybody got pushed out to the other boroughs, right? Now Brooklyn's almost impossible to live in.
It all
right?
just kept,
It just so it's spreading. The Bronx, where I grew up in the Bronx, and a few years ago I went back to visit like the old neighborhood, and the unit my mom used to pay like $350 a month for is like $1,700 a month now, and I'm like, to live here, you're out of your mind. Like I grew up here, like there's no way I'm paying that kind of money to live here.
Exactly.
But then I ran into some friends there, and they're like, what are you gonna do?
They're like, that's the best deal. We don't have another
what are you
option.
gonna do?
What ends up happening.
The closer you get to Manhattan, the more expensive it becomes.
There used to be cheap areas like in Manhattan that weren't so nice not that long ago.
No,
in the 90s,
but it doesn't exist anymore.
No, I know.
It doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
And then what's this? God, I can never. What's the neighborhood in North Manhattan that has completely transformed? Harlem.
Yeah.
Complete transformation.
Yeah.
Like complete transformation.
Yeah.
Like when I was a kid, I never went to Harlem.
No.
Now
it's cool.
Now it's cool. Now it's trendy.
Yeah.
Now there's fusion soul food.
Yeah.
It's out of control.
Yeah.
Complete transformation.
It's that
I read a story, because I'm always reading like real estate stories, right? And I like the feel good stories, And I read the story about a lady who got a job in Manhattan. She wanted to live close by. She bought in Harlem. And everyone said she was out of her mind, but she bought this place for like $80,000 in Harlem. And everyone said she was out of her mind. She was going to get mugged, and her apartment was going to be robbed. And never had a problem. Lived there forever. Sold it like 4 years ago for $1.2 million or something like that. Like best deal ever, But then I start thinking about it. Man, she came up.
Yeah.
That's a huge profit.
Yeah.
But where did she go?
Right, so now she can buy like a 1 bedroom, 1.5 bathroom.
Yeah, exactly. So like I'm knocking on wood because I don't know the whole story.
Yeah.
I'm knocking on wood that over the last decade, like she got massive promotions. Maybe she's a partner somewhere, and and that $1 million came in handy.
That's right.
But otherwise, like you said, $1 million, she's got a 550 square foot 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom.
It's sort of like that double-edged sword, right? Cool thing is Miami's now being a mature city. Before it was all about coming down here, having my ties, and getting a suntan.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, that is.
You can still do that.
No, you can still do it.
No,
and to touch on exactly what you're going to say, I find it interesting, and I was going to close it out with this, but now that you brought it up, I find it interesting that our entire conversation, very rarely did we talk about wanting to go to Miami Beach. Like a lot of the conversation that we had today was
very good point.
Brickell, Coconut Grove, Coral Gables, downtown, midtown. Like we talked about the central city. We almost never mentioned Miami Beach.
It's an excellent point.
Right? And that shows the maturity of Miami.
Correct.
Exactly what you're saying.
And also how difficult it is to develop or do business in Miami Beach, which is
Exactly.
part of the problem there.
Exactly.
Yes.
But now, like LeBron was probably the last person to say, I'm taking my talents to South Beach, right? After that, like everybody was like, no, you're not, idiot. It's downtown, man.
Exactly.
So, but it almost like New Yorkers, Canadians, and so forth and so on are starting to realize that there's so much more to Miami, and
That's true.
that's kudos to our city. You know,
100%.
huge kudos, props to our city
great
for
zoning, great all these things.
Yeah,
Fantastic. Really,
zoning,
the Miami 21
parks,
zoning's great. All those
Miami
overlays,
21,
yeah.
the Opera House, the malls, the Brickell City Center. Kudos to you guys.
Correct. We've gone from
Triple A,
saying,
you
from
know,
saying
Frost.
that- yeah.
I mean, just
Different,
you name it.
Yeah, real city things, not just
Yeah.
the beach, like you're
Yeah,
saying. Like
exactly.
And now we refer more places, not just Miami overall. We refer now as districts. Wynwood District.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
District.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Coconut Grove.
That's right.
That's the thing. That's the.
It's
lingo
like in
now.
New York
That's
when
right.
it was like the meatpacking district and
That's
this
right.
district.
Yeah,
You know,
all those things that we
yeah,
have.
exactly.
Yeah.
And that shows that like I always tell people, look, you know, they say, oh, you can't compare Miami to New York. We can't. But what we can compare it to is the growth, right? New York grew, you know? Once upon a time, New York was going through exactly what we're going through right now.
People forget.
There might have been horses and carriages at the time.
Yes.
But
But it's the
you
same
know,
process, though.
but it's the same
It is
process.
different technology, same
Exactly.
process. Yeah.
It's the same process. And we might actually go through it a lot quicker than
Yep.
they did. You
Yep.
know, what took them 100 years to
It's
do
a
might
technology.
take us 25.
That's right.
You know?
I think more is coming. I was reading it was analysis of empty pieces of developable land in like urban cores, and it was I think the downtown Brickell area that Miami had like the 6th or 7th most like empty pieces of land that could be developed of any metropolitan area that they surveyed to find it. So it's still early days is
Yeah.
my point. And
Yeah.
to tie into what you're saying, you walk around downtown, Flagler area, all these areas, and you see these little old things, and it's not going to be that way 10 years from now.
No, and I'm dying to
Yeah.
see highways extend. I'm dying to see metro extend. I'm dying
Yep.
to see, you know, the rail extend. I'm dying to see all this stuff. You know, I went to a presentation where they were talking about how they're going to extend 836 even more. And not only they're going to extend it even more, they're going to take it south. So now you're going to be able, instead of having to get off on 137th, which is like the last exit, right? And that leads you up. It's like 137th and 12th, so it takes you to 8th Street. It curves, and then that's it. It's going to go all the way out to Chrome.
Correct.
And then it's going to go all the way south to like Tamiami Airport, like down
That's
there.
awesome.
And there's going to be exits on Bird, on Miller, on Kendall, on Sunset. There's going to be exits to all of these streets, which means that now you won't be stuck in this massive traffic, this influx of traffic coming from the east, heading west on all the major roads. Kendall Drive, Sunset, Miller, Bird, all of these things are jam-packed at 5 p.m. headed west, right? Now they'll be able to jump on the highway, shoot all the way west, and then come back in.
That's awesome.
So you'll have traffic coming from two directions.
It's sort of
which
our version of the
change
belt-
everything.
Yeah, so we'll have our own version of the Beltway sort of
Yeah.
route.
Now, I think it would be fantastic if they added a metro rail that ran right along that. That would be killer. You know what I mean? Like, imagine if you lived in Kendall in 167th, you could jump on the metro and go to the airport.
That would be super cool.
It'd be amazing. It'd be amazing.
It'll come. Who knows? We have the Bright Line now.
You know,
That's
you
the
never
new-
know. Bright Line's super cool.
Yeah.
Have you been on it?
No, I just saw someone the other day who came down on it. And he was like, "Wow, it was so fast." And I just.
I'm dying to take
Yeah.
it. I'm dying for the Orlando extension to come
Yeah.
up. I know it's going to take a little bit longer, but I want to jump on the train and just go to Orlando, go to Disney for the day, jump back on it at night, come back home.
The three
You know?
users that I know are actually people who live in Fort Lauderdale and actually take the Bright Line because their offices, their firms are in the Brickell area. So
Yeah.
yes,
It's fantastic. Yeah.
It's getting some traction.
Yeah.
Little traction.
And it looks really
Yes.
nice
And-
too.
It
I've seen
does.
all the pictures and videos. I've seen
You could
people.
chill out, do your work,
Correct.
whatever.
And,
Yeah.
and it's become again a cost basis, right? Because you could take the Bright Line or be driving and paying in tolls on
Gas
the
tolls.
Yeah.
gas tolls. So it equates about the same
You can't
thing,
do
except
work,
you have more
can't do email,
convenience.
you're-
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
it's now being more productive, but spending the same amount of money. But you get more productivity done and less stress of having to deal with an accident and so forth. So,
What a win. My attorney works in the Citibank building, right, downtown. And he hops on the metro, takes it as far south as you can go on the metro, jumps off, jumps in his car, 5-minute ride to the house. He's good to go. Every day. Every day. Like if I want to text him, best time to text him was on the metro on his way home.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
Stressing out, sit
he's
back
hanging
and-
out. He's on the train. He's hanging out. He's using the phone. He's relaxing. He's not stressed out in traffic. And
So
I
people
would.
say Miami has no transit. It does.
It does.
There-
Just
it's-
you know,
it's filling in.
Miami has always had like for a long time we've had this metro that goes from like downtown and Brickell and the Mover and all this stuff. And I just think that not enough people were taking it. So I believe that the city at some point didn't do a very good job at promoting the opportunity to use it. And that's where the city failed, I think. They built it and then they just assumed that people would use it. But they didn't realize that people were so accustomed to being in their cars in Florida. Being used to, and you have places like New York where you really don't have to advertise it too much because people are not accustomed to driving. They're accustomed to taking the train. We had a car growing up, and the car literally sat in a garage from Monday through Friday. We only used it on Saturday and Sunday. And the rest of the time, I took the bus and the train to school. My stepfather took the train to work. My mom took the bus to work. And that's what it was. And any bus, train, or anything you wanted to take from where I grew up was literally a block, no further than a block and a half away. That was it. The bus that I took to school was like 6 blocks away. But that's normality. You walk 6 blocks, you hop on the
people
bus.
People here don't walk. It always feels like,
people here.
I'm like, we're going 5 blocks away. We're going to walk.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, no, I don't walk in these shoes. Or
No,
something like
that. Or it's too hot outside.
Whatever it is. I'm like,
Like Deni says, commercial and residential is different because the commercial guys, they're all suited up with ties all the time. And I used to be like that. And I was like, I just can't fathom wearing a tie in this weather. Sorry, can't do it. So I'll suit up every day, but you will not see a tie on me. You will not, unless somebody died or they're getting married. I'm not wearing a tie.
But it's custom too. When you see everyone, when you walk into an office in a commercial deal,
it's different. It's different.
So again, it's customs, and here generations. I think the metro's been around for 30 years, for as far as I can remember. And then generational, there used to be houses with 3-4 vehicles because we used to drive everywhere. As now density has increased, urban cores are now more popular. There's that shift, and I think, like you said, if I was the city of Miami or the county, start promoting more on the transits. And one of the things that last meeting I went to when it was brought up, right, public transportation, they've been hesitant for the following reasons, right? As technology has improved, we talk about self-driving vehicles. What's going to work? Well, self-driving vehicles, it's going to decrease insurance rates. Why? Because now the vehicle is going to want to stop when it has to stop rather than being busy. And what that entails is you could have more transformed traffic as well. So they're thinking, well, should we wait and transform our buses that way? Make them self-driving buses, or should we still have a personnel working?
Eventually they will.
Eventually they will. I think if they go the bus route first, it's going to be a big mistake. Because we're still not used to taking the bus.
Correct.
So it doesn't matter if there's a driver or no driver. The mentality is, I can't get on a bus.
Yes.
Right? I'd rather call an Uber. So if I'm going to call an Uber, let it be a self-driving Uber.
Yeah. And they're investing in that. All these companies are. Like,
1,000%.
It's early days.
Google's been on it for years.
Yeah, exactly.
And so Uber's on it already. We know that.
Can't happen fast enough here. You see how people drive in Miami? Take them off the roads.
Yes. You want to text and drive? Call up Uber. All right?
Exactly. People know the dangers of self-driving cars. They haven't seen Miami drivers.
It's true.
And I would say most of those guys don't have a driver's license to begin with, just because we're
that's a scary thing. We live in a city, and I think the state. We live in a state with one of the highest unlicensed drivers in the nation. That's horrible.
Correct.
All right, guys. First of all, Anna, thank you very much for being on the show with us. This is awesome. Deni, thank you very much for being on the show with us. This is David Kurz. We're going to sign out because we've held you for a long time. This is supposed to be a 15-minute show, but the truth is that this information is invaluable, and I think that you're going to walk away with so much more of this, and I almost feel like we need to do a part 2 of this. So we'll keep you guys posted. Maybe the part 2 will be more single-family house residential, and we'll talk more about that on a hyper local Miami-Dade County level, and then we'll talk about it nationally. So Anna, if you would come back one day, we'd love to have you again for part 2. All right, thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to follow us at David Adam Kurz on any social media platform, and subscribe to our podcast, Take Action Podcast with David Adam Kurz. Talk to you guys soon.